Bad weather games always typically seem to play a factor, and as Oklahoma State has this matchup with Cincinnati and Stillwater, Oklahoma, we're finally live. Let's get into it right around the corner.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You know, we're available on every single podcasting platform, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on Twitter at AllDayOState. We are live from the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. This is going to be a difficult test. Primarily because of the weather, right? Weather always factors in to these equations. As you just maybe saw with the OU Kansas game that did in fact go a little bit later due to some weather delays, it can set you back. OU's issue is a little bit different than Oklahoma State's, thankfully. Oklahoma University cannot seem to find a way to run the ball effectively. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State has proven to be one of the better running games in the entire Big 12 this season. So, today, number one objective needs to be establish the physicality because that's something that the weather cannot dictate. No matter what the game plan is, your scripted first 20, 25 plays, you can throw those out the window if the physicality is not matched from the very beginning. It doesn't matter what scheme Cincinnati has drawn up. We know 22 guys on 22 guys, Oklahoma State is the better team. If we can establish the physicality, the running game will come. As we covered a little bit earlier in the week, it would be great if we could maybe use the passing game in the beginning to open up the running game. But regardless, if you set the tone from a physicality perspective, typically the rest will take care of itself. So from the jump street, right off the bat, the offensive line, we want as many pancakes as physically possible, even if it doesn't necessarily amount to a whole heck of a lot. Regardless of what it looks like, at the end of the day, the physicality must show through because bad weather games are always an issue. And when you have guys like Ollie Gordon behind this offensive line, it does leave you much more capable, but it also leaves you susceptible to being very one-dimensional. If you end up one-dimensional, you set yourself up to get beat by literally anybody. I'm really feeling the idea that the wide receivers are going to be key in this game, not only from just catching the daggone ball. Part of it definitely has to be the red zone. I do think that we have a particular red zone target that hasn't got an opportunity this season that probably should have a big day today, even if it's not necessarily in the reception and yards department. The physicality, again, needs to come through. And I'll tell you, from a wide receiver perspective, if you can be physical out on the edge, it's going to eventually find its way inside. And again, if this is a fist fight in the box, we have seen as evidence with Kansas State, if you put Oklahoma State, whenever they're fired up and ready to rock and roll, in a situation where they got to fight for something, K-State showed us that there's a lot of possibilities. KU showed us that we've got a bunch of guys on the offensive side of the ball that can help us. It's not just about the platform in which Alan Bowman was able to show forth this last game, as opposed to Crawdaddy backing his way up. He was stepping up in the pocket. I don't love the propensity, again, to throw it away. But I also, if you go back and you look at what was the biggest issue last year with Spencer Sanders, or heck, any of the time that Spencer Sanders was involved, was his propensity to give the ball to the other team. Alan Bowman has done a very good job of that not happening. So again, I'm okay with the statistical analysis side of things, indicating that the touchdowns are not quite there yet. The QBR is not quite there yet. Some of the statistics surrounding Alan Bowman may not be the greatest, but the biggest statistic that we should all pay attention to is the lack of turnovers. Don't really care about the other stuff. The red zone efficiency, yes, I would like to see that addressed. But again, I do think that we have a guy that can help in that department today. Hopefully we use him in the red zone. If not, I might lose my ever-loving mind. One of those is definitely going to be Josiah Johnson. Why we seem to abandon him after we cross the 50-yard line, it is beyond me how you have somebody that big and who's become very physical recently. He has learned how to seal that edge off. And that was his biggest issue at the beginning of the season. So if you're looking at it from a credential standpoint, right, is this player checking off these boxes? Josiah Johnson is certainly checking off the boxes that he needed to get from where he was in the spring to now. And again, you're going to see some of these guys who haven't really had a feature role yet this season that are forced to play in this game. Instead of viewing it as a negativity, I'm personally viewing it as a positive. This is an opportunity to see some of the guys that we know are inevitably going to redshirt, most likely. But even those guys, right? I mean, you could throw Zan Flores into this conversation as well, y'all. What does it hurt? What does it hurt to just give him some reps? Now, again, I know we haven't had enough of a lead to even approach that being a thing. But if you know you got the ability to play the guy in a few games and it not count against anybody or anything, a couple different packages. Speaking of packages, another way I think we can set the physicality today is with some red zone packages, not just through the air. I'm talking about our main man, Gunner Daggone Gundy. Can he sling it better than Brandon Whedon? No. Can he run it better than Jody Walsh? No, he cannot. But he can do more than enough. Anytime a guy comes in running a 4.9 or 4.59 or gets to a 4.59 after running a 6 flat, that really needs to take into consideration how somebody can come from running that time to then getting it better over the time of not even being a football player, mind you, because his first year at Oklahoma State, all he was a student. Obviously, he has access to things that a lot of your typical students do not, but it's not like he was in the facilities and going through the film and doing all that. It wasn't. Gunnar Gundy had to kind of do this on his own from a physical perspective. So if we're trying to set physicality and you've got a guy that's put on weight, put on mass, and he's gotten considerably faster in his time, let him be part of the package, right? Third down defense and red zone efficiency are the biggest issues we have. And the best indicator that I can see that could get better isn't the running game. It's legitimately the passing game. Sometimes you got to use one to set up the other. It's not always that simplistic, of course, but, we got some comments. Oh, man. Well, I cannot get to the comment section. I don't know what's happening. So we're just going to keep rocking and rolling here. All right. So then the other thing, it's got to be the weather. Once again, if you go look at the KU game, go look at the OU game, that weather delay clearly had a factor. Is it better for the Big 12 if OU takes a loss? Absolutely. Is it better for Oklahoma State and the build of Bedlam for them to win? Sure. But this makes the Big 12 race much more intriguing. Because until today, right, the only teams that really had the opportunity to jump up and create some chaos for Texas and OU was primarily Oklahoma State and K-State. If KU won this game, that changes the dynamic a little bit, and it appears as though that's the case. But once again, what was able to keep KU in this thing throughout with their backup quarterback, and again, we've talked about Jason Bean. He's not your average backup quarterback. He's the fastest player on that entire KU roster, and we've seen it over the time. We just happen to have a pretty good record against Jason Bean. It does appear the Jalen Daniels smoke and mirrors was just that, smoke and mirrors. So now it is ironic when you kind of connect the dots of him maybe partying all night in Austin and then getting a back injury in the warmups as a result of, it does make it seem a little bit more plausible that was the case. It also makes it a little bit more plausible that they were going to use him as a talent just to kind of set up the game planning that they wanted OU to use. This thing came down primarily to weather. So in these games, we know that we can beat teams like Kansas State in a field goal fest. We know that if it kind of came down to it, we could beat even a KU potentially in a field goal fest. I do not know that a field goal fest in this game is the right call. Now, our kicker is definitely significantly better than Cincinnati's, but it's just like from a quarterback standpoint, whenever the ball is wet and it's wonky and it swells a little bit due to the cold, it does make things difficult. From a wide receiver perspective, it kind of sucks catching the rock when it does feel like a rock. That's where that terminology does come from. If you're looking at the potential of a field goal on field goal game, I do like our chances, but you're playing with fire. If you get into the tit for tat, field goal for field goal, it doesn't matter how good the kicker is. When you have these type of inclement issues outside, it's going to be a problem. And it might not just be the kick. You could have issues all the way from the snap to the hold before you even get to the kick. Bad weather is an equalizer. So we need to make sure that if we set the physicality and we do not get in a ticky-tacky field goal for field goal for field goal type of battle, then we can just put the issues to bed pretty quickly and pretty early. Obviously, that would be much preferred, but because the punting game is going to be in the same department, the receiving game. Guys, if anybody's ever had questions in regards to punt return, kick return, and why can't you just catch the daggone football, I implore you to go outside and throw a ball as high as you can in the air, just straight up in the air. And then if you have any type of wind or weather that affects it, it's already a difficult thing to do, right? It really is. Just to judge it, and you have to catch it completely different than you catch a regular pass. You cannot catch a punt or a kickoff like you catch a pass, right? It's more, you do have to use your elbows to some degree to kind of get into your body to help you. In bad weather, this is always an issue. So if you win the turnover battle, it might be because of the inclement weather. If you have a better running game, it might possibly because of the fight in the box. And to me, none of that matters if you do not establish the physicality from the very get-go. The fight in the box, the fist fight up front is always crucial, but especially in these type of games. If it was wonderful weather and it's 70 degrees and sunny and you can air it out and have a lot of fun, then you making the game a little bit dirty, a little bit ugly, a little bit nasty, it doesn't matter. This is not one of these situations where I think we can get away with being ticky-tacky and trading field goals. I think it's paramount that the physicality be established, and part of that physicality is in the red zone. Before we move on to segment 3 real quick, guys, I do have to let you know, if you haven't visited the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, you got to get up here. They've got this thing with monster apples. They can cut them up and do a multitude of things with them. They're doing it primarily just through the festivities of Halloween. They've also got Halloween gift boxes. Well, trick-or-treat pouches is what they're affectionately referred to as. And I will tell you this, my Achilles heel has always been gummies, and they have some phenomenal gummy worms that are also buy 2, get 1 free. So make sure you do swing by through. If you can't make it in today, not a problem. We're going to be here a couple times, including Bedlam, just due to their wonderful hospitality. Apparently, I'm not a DJ. Well, I'm not a DJ, but apparently that's not cool enough for Willie. So the hospitality here has been phenomenal. Make sure that you swing by and you try the apples. Make sure you swing by and you get your hands on some of these gummy worms. It's my vice. It can be your vice too. Speaking of vices, one of the biggest obstacles I feel that everyone has is trying to get access to their favorite things, whether it be a sporting event, a comedy club, or a show. Go to Game Time today, because Game Time is going to allow you to get tickets up to not only the beginning of the game, but they have killer last minute deals even an hour into the game. Again, no matter what event you're looking to get squared away in your local area, go to Game Time today. You can view the seats to see exactly what you're looking at before you purchase the tickets. So make sure that you do download the Game Time app today. Use promo code Locked On to get yourself squared away. All right. Stay out of your way. This is a common theme, and I know you guys know that I get a little perturbed just because of the simple idea that you can, in fact, get in your own way. This is the exact reason that we've had conversations about Cincinnati being dead last in the conference, other than the fact that they can't fill up a stadium. That's frustrating too. But UCF, Cincinnati, they both lose games the same way. It's just little stuff that have nothing to do with game planning, has nothing to do with X's and O's. It's all about mismanagement of the clock, mismanagement of the system, mismanagement of the defense. And no matter what it boils down to, it's got to start and stop with the accountability. So stay out of your own way. Here's a perfect example of stay out of our own way. West Virginia last year. I know you guys have heard me mention this before. But our main man, Mr. Heisman candidate himself, Ollie Gordon, runs for 64 yards on essentially 8 plays in the fourth quarter. And as we drive down the field and get close to the red zone, we immediately start throwing the ball again. We let one dude lead us all the way down the field for 64 yards. And then in the rain, we decide we're going to start throwing it. That is the epitome of getting in your own way. And I hope that's something that we try to find a way to avoid today. There's going to be turnovers. If you win the turnover battle, you're probably in good shape. But if you win the turnover battle and you shoot yourself in the foot right after and give the ball back, it doesn't do you any favors. If you're buried a little bit deep and you know that the weather is going to make the precariousness of the kick not so hot, maybe you approach the conversation, call a timeout, use them appropriately, and maybe go for it. I don't see any way that Cincinnati can completely play with us for 4 quarters. I just don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. And I firmly believe that the madness of the Big 12, it puts us in a really good position. Before the OU Kansas game, we were still having a conversation that we could screw things up for OU and Texas. That conversation becomes a lot more realistic because if you get in a scenario where you have to go tiebreaker mode with Texas, I think a lot of people would be surprised if we didn't lean a certain way there. And right now, it appears as though the lean is going to favor teams like KU and K-State, which is teams that we just beat. Mind you, they were both ranked when we did that as well. So for everyone out there, I do see the comments and everything going wild, but I can't read them. I can't get to my commercial either because my mouse just stopped working. So luckily we're live, so I can just keep on rocking and rolling. Typically, this is about the time that we'd go into the comment section and we'd go back and forth on what you guys are potentially looking at. But since I don't have access for whatever reason, I guess I have to go buy a mouse. Another interesting thing that I wanted to make mention of, I was going to save this for Monday's show, but whatever. There is talk that we've got at least 4 to 5 offensive linemen that could potentially be given an extra year of eligibility. Now, 2 of those gentlemen are primarily because of injuries. So if you know the historical nature of our O-line and injuries, probably sorts that out for you. The other 2, on the other hand, I think they should absolutely be back. And this is a question for everybody. Like, if your envisionment of an offensive lineman is to be a road grader, Ollie Gordon helps you do that. If your envisionment as an offensive lineman is to eventually play at the next level, being a lineman for somebody that is legitimately in the Heisman contention, it's going to do a wonderful amount of things for your career. You're going to get more eyeballs from NFL scouts, NFL teams, NFL executives if you've got a guy that's absolutely dominating. It's just by process of simple elimination. There's not X number of guys out there that are legitimately able to win the Heisman. So anybody that's looking at extra Ollie Gordon film, they're going to see more of the offensive line. So instead of having to be, let's say, a Tevin Jenkins, this is a perfect example. Tevin Jenkins was good, right? Border level starter as a freshman style of good. I would say somewhat reminiscent of a Indine right now. Guys, Jack Indine is the primary reason why Caleb Etienne decided to leave Oklahoma State and take his talents to BYU. He was legitimately getting pushed by a true freshman. So yes, the future at the offensive line position looks more than fine. We are more than capable to make things happen. But again, Tevin Jenkins went from left tackle, right tackle, and then he actually excelled more at Oklahoma State at right tackle than left tackle. But then again, was projected at that level to the NFL primarily because where do you think a lot of these coaches accidentally got to witness Tevin Jenkins? Chuba Hubbard, right? When Chuba Hubbard rushes for almost 2,100 yards in a season, people do take more notice. You get more capabilities. You get more opportunities. It could equal combine invitations. It could equal a bigger, badder, better pro day. So for any offensive lineman out there that does even think they have the opportunity to get an additional year, you know good and daggone well it's best for your career to come back and do so. Primarily, you can be selfish if you want to. I'm okay with that. If you selfishly want to come back to help a dude win a Heisman, cool. If you selfishly want to come back because you know you got a guy who could win the Heisman and it's going to put you in front of more TVs, more scouts, more execs, more everything, great. Love it. So be it. So my curiosity does, in fact, wonder, what do you guys think about the prospect of basically mostly all of the O-line coming back? And if you're, if you were a parent of offensive line, let's say, do you risk it? If your son's already had 2 major reconstructive surgeries, do you risk another year? See, I don't know. So I understand, right, that they have to have a juggling act here, but it's rarefied air. When you're having the conversation about anybody in Heisman, that is a rare scenario. If it's too late in this season to build that hype train, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. But it's preposterous to think that we shouldn't start it now from a national perspective. And once again, if you're an offensive lineman, that is beneficial. And then we also have to look at the trickle-down effect in the recruiting department as well. If we can get a decent amount of these guys to say, does it mean that some of the younger cats don't get as much playing time right away? Yeah, maybe. But offensive line is not somewhere that you want to do a bunch of musical chairs. You want to do it if necessary, not because of. I really love the potential of this offensive line, especially if you give them an extra year. Now, I do know that there's a little bit of a differentiation on opinion in regards to what the extra COVID year equals, right? There seems to be a little bit of a misnomer when it comes to your ability to get a 6-7 year. It's almost got to be primarily 100% because of injury. And realistically, it has to be stacked up in the right allotment of time, because I just learned recently that the NCAA views you playing any sport in any season as you playing that sport, right? So, for example, Oklahoma State has a player that transferred that played a significant amount of time for a couple of years. And then the COVID year came. The university that he was at decided to move the schedules around. So he decided to play another sport because of COVID and the way that they were maneuvering things. He wasn't going to have the same access, basically, to football. So even though he played in an entirely different sport, the NCAA is still holding it against him. Even though he only played 3 years of football, he technically was enrolled and a student athlete on campus at the same time. So I get it, right? You could argue semantics all day long. But the semantics in this particular situation, to me, are slightly bothersome. This is yet another reason why you can have the viable conversation of how long does the NCAA continue to have a say in any of this? I mean, I'm not gonna jump on my soapbox, all right? But this conversation, I hope, if nothing else, it allows this conversation to heat up more. I could worry less about realignment and more about the travesty that is the NCAA, because again, this is supposed to be about the student athletes. Just like NIL and the transfer market is supposed to be about the student athletes. So if it's not about that now, then you're never going to be able to make that adjustment. And if you can't make that adjustment now, then maybe, just maybe, you've lost your fastball. And if you can't find a curveball with it, you might be in a precarious situation moving forward. All right, y'all. Speaking of precarious situations, do not end up like Cody. Don't wake up one day and say, hey, I might not have a leg. Go to Jason Medical. today because the Jace case is going to give you a minimum of 5 life-saving antibiotics, regardless of the craziness going on in the world. You have earthquakes, you have tornadoes, you have tsunamis, you have fires going everywhere, you have unrest all over the world. And these things do, in fact, affect the supply chain. Do not get caught flat-footed because you also, with the Jace case, you can make a strategic decision on how many medications, life-saving medications, that are going to help you and your family 24/7. Don't get caught flat-footed. Don't get caught no-footed. Get hooked up with Jace Medical. The Jace case is going to get you squared away with everything that you need and more to protect you and your family 24/7. Once again, before we finish segment number 3 and skedaddle on out of here, make sure that you do, in fact, come by Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. They might have the best gummy worms in the game. Their monster apples are to die for. And as I've been in here, they've been over and over and over. People are coming in for these monster apples, and they've got a punch card ticket. And on Thursdays, they do double punches. And then after like 9, you get a free big monster candy apple. I might be wrong. Is it 9? 9. It is 9? I did it. I nailed it. See, guys, I remember some things. All right. Make sure that you do that. And if you do buy some of the gummy worms, let me know, because that is my vice. All right. Today, the Big 12 race has gotten significantly different. And Oklahoma State now finds itself, not that we were completely removed before with just one loss in the conference, but this race is now not only crazy, but it is possible. It is possible that OU or Texas both could not end up in Arlington. I thought maybe it was a foregone conclusion that one of the two would inevitably get in, and we were all basically vying for the opportunity to play one of those guys for that game. But with the way the Big 12 is, I know it makes our game a little bit more trepidatious as well, but this race in the Big 12 does land squarely now in Stillwater. I mean, I haven't seen the final score, but I'm assuming KU pulled it off because they'd scored with like 50 seconds left to take the lead. And if that's the case, and I'm sure people are telling me in comments, for those of you who missed it, I don't know what happened. My screen's like frozen. So I'm just live. I actually don't even know how I'm going to turn the live thing off because my screen's being weird. Anywho. All right, yeah, the Big 12 race is completely wide open. Oklahoma State finds itself squarely in it. And with Bedlam on the horizons in Stillwater, Oklahoma, you win that game. Now you're the leader in the clubhouse. Because, guys, Texas does have some difficult games yet to play. If you looked at OU's schedule, you could have said that maybe the potential to them to catch a loss was pretty few and far between. If they didn't lose to KU or Oklahoma State, the chances of them losing at all were going to be pretty slim until Arlington or the Final Four, right? In today's age of transfer market NIL, I don't see anybody running the table anymore. There's just too much parity. There's too many guys that leave big-time positions because they want a better situation. And sometimes it's just a change of an offense or change of a defense that can make that situation precisely what they need. But could we have thought between now and then that winning a Big 12 title would be a legitimate conversation? That conversation has now become much more legitimate. Now we need to look to taking care of business, which is, again, why we need to establish the physicality early. I don't care if it's going to be through the run game or defensively or even through the air. You can establish physicality through the air. You can establish physicality on the outside. Guys, wide receivers like pancakes too. So I hope every wide receiver out there starts the game off with a pancake. I hope every offensive lineman out there has so much syrup coursing through their veins that they're not going to have enough pancakes stacked up for it to matter. If you establish that physicality and you don't get in a tit-for-tat, field goal in this bad weather, you're setting yourself up for problems. You just are. Every time that you have to snap the ball to the holder and try to pull off a kick in this weather, you're going to set yourself up for difficulty. And it's the same as the other side too. Brian Nardo has been somewhat fairly criticized for the back end of our defense, but maybe not entirely fairly. Because again, we have done very, very well at shutting down the run. That was objective number 1, 2 games in a row. The objective of establishing the physicality, it doesn't matter if it happens on the ground, on the line, through the air, in the box. Just bring the pain. Bring the pain in Payne County today. All righty, guys. I have another meeting. So I've got to skedaddle on off of here and run to Hideaway before I make my way to Boone Pickens Stadium. Sorry that I couldn't get in the comments and have some fun with you guys. I will try to resolve whatever issue I'm currently having with my laptop in that time. Tomorrow, we will also be doing a live show. Since I won't be going live post-game due to just the time constraints, I will be doing a live show again tomorrow. Possibly, likely, from this very same position. So if you want to come have a cup of coffee and a Monster Apple and throw stuff at me, you're more than welcome to do so. Other than that, you know I love you. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. And yes, I do think we're going to win. No, I didn't forget to make a prediction Friday because we're 3-0 when I pick us to lose. So we're going to stick with the theme here. I do think we're going to win. I do. But just for sake of superstition, which I definitely have some of, I'm just going to say it's like a 35-24 game. Obviously, I do think that if we establish all 3 of these keys, we should get the W. Establish physicality. Do not get in a tit for tat, and stay out of your own daggone way. Do not allow Ollie Gordon to rush for 64 yards down the field and then throw it 3 times, please. And also, thank you. Kudos. I don't care if it's Tim Rattay, Mike Gundy, Kel Gundy, Gunnar Gundy, some other Gundy, whomever is more involved with the offensive play calling. Make sure you have the headset all day, please. That would be much preferred. Casey Dunn can stay at home. Matter of fact, Casey Dunn might as well just join me for live show because him calling offense isn't the greatest. All right, so I will try to get my mouse fixed. So tomorrow, oh no way, now it's working. Get out of Dodge. Okay, well you know what? Now there's people in here. Really? Yeah, Robert, you need to go play catch with yourself, man. Get out there in the weather, all right? Get your best punt return game on. You got this. This is going to be Yep. And you know, I'll tell you this potential KU game. Did somebody update me? What was that final? Somebody just said down at the bottom. Oh, what? Oh, so OU won? Hold on. What am I doing? No way. Well, okay. So selfishly, even if OU does pull off the W, what does that do? That gives the big-time, massive Bedlam matchup that a lot of us wanted, including myself. I wasn't never going to cheer for OU. That should be illegal. You know, state fans cheering for OU, they should be locked up. Throw away the key. But obviously, you know, I would much prefer a top 4 ranked undefeated Bedlam at night with a possible game day appearance. Okay. I do know that ABC probably already has a target in mind. So we might get squeezed out of the deal here. Of 33 OU, 38 Kansas. Got it. Sweet. There you go. All right. Well, either way, I'm cool. All right, y'all. Yeah, I'm going to go to my hideaway meeting. I'm very, very irritated that my mouse just started working. I missed all of these. You better take a picture with that bear. Take a picture with bear. You got to get in there. We got people taking pictures of bears, and I don't blame them. That's an awesome bear. For those of you who don't know, here at Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, you can come pet a big, fluffy bear. All right, y'all. Anybody else have anything else? I'm gonna do a couple more minutes. So if somebody has something you want to fire away with here, feel free. Get in here. Yeah, Robert. I want proof. I want video evidence that Robert Pierce went in his front yard and started catching some punts and kickoff returns. I need that. I need that in my life. OU went down. Heck yeah. Okay, cool. I probably should have scrolled through these a little bit earlier. Got it. It is the last. It's the last one for at least 8 to 10 years, predicated upon the stupid schedules that are already preset. And you know what's funny? You hear OU fans talk crap about, little brother don't want to pay Bedlam. Well, you know what? You tell all of your little brother buddies that if OU wants to pay all of the teams that we have scheduled, including Alabama and Oregon, sure, go ahead. I'm down. All right, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one. For real this time. You know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And as always, thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. I will be live again tomorrow to make up for not being able to do a post-game show. So catch me. Come down here, have some coffee, eat some apples, and we'll have a debate about the best gummy worms in America. All right, y'all. Make sure you leave a like on the YouTube side. Make sure you leave a review on the Spotify, Apple, and podcasting side. Other than that, come catch me down at Hideaway or live living in person. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Later, taters.